All right, hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Great Grandpa BB. This is my show, and I'm here today with Danielle Squire, an old friend of mine, and she is a teacher here on campus. We're here at Lorain Community College, and you teach sustainability, and you maintain a lot of gardens around here.
Yep.
I don't know, like and you teach Pilates as well.
I teach Pilates.
That's pretty rad. You do a lot of things.
I do a lot of things. Yes. I just like to, keep my excitement going, and I'm a dabbler.
Right. Yeah. Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
What was it? Master of none, but then better than a master of one.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yep. Have the most fun. Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm a teacher here. I do maintain what we call the specialty garden. So there's a concept that the college adopted about 10 years ago called the campus in a garden.
Okay.
The idea is to naturalize most of the almost 300 acres that we have here.
Yeah.
And that's a really big project with a lot of players, lots of different ideas and resources. And research coming out on the best modalities and things. So we started with our specialty gardens, and so we've got habitat garden, healing garden, we have a native prairie and things like that. And so I lead students from all over campus, all majors. We've got
what's the difference between a specialty garden and a regular garden?
A lot of it has to do with its educational value. So each garden will have its own theme.
Yeah.
So the habitat garden focuses on habitat.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it's all native plants.
Yeah.
And we kind of demonstrate how you can work with the synchronicities of the native plants, with the native flora and fauna.
Yeah. Local to the area.
Right. Right. And then we've got another garden that's half native, and then others that are just well-behaved perennials and things like that. Everyone's kind of got a different idea of what they want to do, and we basically just show how you can maintain all these different concepts, but in a sustainable way that's healthy for the environment. And so I work with biology students. We've got a sustainable agriculture program here. That's what I work for.
Okay.
But I'll even grab graphic design kids.
Right.
Because if ultimately the environment is what we all have in common, so that's our common ground.
Okay.
So I try to pull everybody in, kind of like a hearth, and it's really a dynamic process. It's really incredible.
That's fantastic. I always like the whole idea of just like no boundaries between subjects, because we're all on the same planet, essentially.
Yeah, and you can't pull one piece apart and say, this is just this, and you belong over here. We're like,
It's all connected.
Yeah, and so maybe you're not digging in the dirt, but we need software to help us kind of analyze some of the soil results. I mean, there's literally a place for everyone.
You get out the nerds with the Raspberry Pis and like...
That's right. It is always a good time.
Yeah, for sure. Sustainability. I've studied or been in the world of like electric cars and solar panels a lot throughout my time, and so I always deal with it. Not so much in terms of biology, but in terms of technology and how we can leverage that side of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm glad because I can't.
Yeah.
I think about it and I go, wow. And then the next day I'll read the same thing and I'll go, wow.
Yeah.
It doesn't stick. But you give me 300 Latin names of plants and I'll have it memorized by next week, because to me it's like a name. If you met 300 people, you have a pretty good chance of remembering a lot of them when you encounter them again. Yeah. It's the same with plants for me, but
That's impressive. Yeah, the taxonomy, is that what it's called?
Binomial nomenclature.
Okay, vulgar Latin.
Yeah. Yes.
Something around that neighborhood. Sweet. Yeah, I think that we definitely need both sides of this equation, though. You know?
Absolutely.
That was one of the main things I was thinking about this conversation, is that a lot of times we blame technology in large fashion for a lot of the climate disaster that's unfolding, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't know what we were doing when we did it, basically.
Sure.
We were doing it because it worked at the time, and we were doing whatever was the easiest way to get from A to B, you know? That's how humans have always done everything.
Yeah. Well, and then the
Basically.
original vision may have included
Yeah.
a whole other outcome
Yeah.
than
Right.
what's happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, you know, 200 years ago, to foresee what's happening right now is
no way.
clearly impossible.
Yeah.
Like even in the 1990s, like
I know.
like,
Yeah, and we know because we were there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my son, he's 14 now in high
Yeah.
school. He just signed up, and I had a parent meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
And, do you need help scheduling? Scan this code. Do you need help
Right.
with anything else ever?
Yeah.
Scan this code.
Yeah.
Really
And
wild.
I know in the early 90s we used to get these like little science, 3-page magazines for the kids or whatever in elementary school when I was going to school. And then there was just like solar panel cars on the front of the thing,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, we're really doing it,
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, and if we were
And-
the age we are now when that came out, we'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like a big thing here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
me anyway. Like, that seems really good.
Yeah, it seems like we're going in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Especially at times.
Yeah.
But then the larger picture, you step back and you're like, are we really making a dent in the whole overarching picture then? You know what I mean? And that's a harder question too,
I guess it depends too, like almost like with the camera, when you're zooming in, of course you just saw me with my
Right.
camera a second
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
so it's okay. But,
Binoculars.
Yeah. You zoom in and you've got your eyes on one thing, and you could spend all the time in the world understanding that very well, but
Yeah.
then when you take the zoom out, it's still there, but you do have that greater perspective. You have
Mhm.
to just look at it different. And so I guess the bigger I look, the more I think on a consciousness level,
Yeah.
it's hot right now. Like
Yeah.
it's quick, it's on fire, even in my own profession.
Yeah.
Everything is very, very different.
I see that a lot, like in the last or at least in the last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everything's
5
changed.
most.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
especially this past year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people are jumping on board now with just like the entire mindset's changing and
Yeah.
like people just realizing that like, well, we have this infinite growth model in economics in a finite world. Okay, hold on.
There you go.
Let me just go back and
We're
do the math here.
starting to ask important questions.
Yeah.
That's right. And a lot
Yeah.
of that has to do with fresh air.
Yeah, water, the important things,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
that everybody needs. That is just commonalities.
Yeah. Well, and then their mindsets. Mindsets are becoming healthier because people are spending more time outside.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, there are tons of
Keep going.
yeah. There are tons of examples of
Yeah, we're good.
What's
I just
that?
wanted to check the recorder there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But there's tons of examples on how conscientiousness is spreading and how fast. So even like rock climbing.
Okay.
I mean, the last time I went rock climbing, I waited 2 hours to climb a rock
Wow.
because everybody else was also rock climbing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I celebrated that. I also left.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
right.
I celebrated that other people were getting out. They're getting out. This
Yeah.
is a big example in the past 6 months. I don't know if you've noticed, but everyone's got a motorcycle now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But however you're doing it, whether you're hiking or you're riding a motorcycle or you're bird watching, whatever you're doing, it's that fresh perspective that comes in, and it's just as important as any other type of nutrient that your body consumes.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm weird when I don't go outside.
Right.
I get weird. I don't think the same. I don't act the same. I don't
Yeah.
even walk the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Is
picking
that
up.
is that go? I mean, a little bit off topic, but does that go same for like socialization as well? Just like you mentioned, bird watching and almost solitary activities outside, almost, right? But I always find that if I don't talk to people, you know, like, because I definitely, I'm not an extrovert or an introvert, I don't think, but like I'm definitely need my time by myself to work on my own thing. But then I also definitely need time with people. you
Yeah.
know? And like if I don't have that balance, I can feel it like real strong.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And well, it's your it's your knowing of your need to socialize. So that's one of the things I admire about you, and that I try to like channel my inner Vivi, because you are always out in your community, and you are a beacon of light, and you are always supportive for anybody in your network. But it means the world to those people.
Yeah.
And you also spend the time to take care of yourself and do the things that mean the most to you, and that is why you develop so wholesome. And I think that that's a big part of it for me. I don't know if I'm introverted or extroverted. I'm loud and I'm goofy, and I'll do anything in public, but also I'm super withdrawn sometimes.
Yeah.
So actually, it's interesting that you bring that up, because socializing is something I'm trying nowadays. I've come to realize what it means to me, and how important it is, and how strong a community is. Just in the past year and a half or so, that has been a huge area of growth for me that I did not ask for or expect, but it's super valuable, and so that is why I get involved with all like social nerd stuff.
Right.
So I'm still doing all my nerd stuff, but with other people, and oh my gosh, what have I been doing all this time? I've got people that I go out birding with, or we plant prairies together. We could talk and share ideas and tell each other when we're right or wrong, or we might be this or that. Perspective is so fresh, and there are, I mean, they always say that your tribe is out there, but we lose sight of that sometimes. But the more we focus on ourselves and develop,
and like
we find ourselves in those circles.
Yeah, exactly. And on levels, right? We find ourselves in the circle, but we also find ourselves in the circle, right?
Yeah.
Not to get too... Anyway. But from what I see from afar, I feel like I've noticed you being a community leader in a lot of ways, in this community. And even like the teaching itself is, I think, probably part of the socialization. At least in a way. It's a little one-sided probably at times. But also like you're there and it's alive, and it's
wonderful. Well, you think it's one-sided. But sometimes at the end of the day, I'm wondering who got more, who took away, who's taking away more.
Yeah, for sure.
The stories that I hear from these individuals is so inspiring to me, because I feel like, you came to me for the information that I have to share with you. But what I really want to know is more about that person, and all you got to do is listen. You don't even have to ask questions. I learned just so much about everybody. Stuff that they want to tell somebody, but we don't always just blurt out information to our friends, and we don't always have a stranger who will listen. So people really get to just tell me all of their favorite or least favorite parts of their lives. And I feel like I've cultivated wisdom that day. And that's a big part. So teaching is my social life. But it has really changed me as a person, and how I view community, and how I view diversity and social dynamics in general. That's real. I know I used to go to some of my teachers in college and just talk to them about random stuff, kind of, because it was like I was studying a lot of anthropology at the time. And so it was like along the lines of what evolution was. And then I just remember asking, like, it's like, well, like I was talking about the Beatles or something, and how, like, why isn't Beatles music a church or something? That's something you would ask,
Not that I even listen to the Beatles that much anymore. Right? It's, I don't know.
But that's how your mind works,
Right, yeah.
Well, and you're excited, too. You get inspired, you learn what you learn, and you're, like, pacing one foot from the other, like, you just want to talk. Like, it's just...
Exactly. Like, ideas, I did talk to one professor there, and I'm not going to mention names that way, but, like, I was talking about, like, when I first got to that college over in Kent, I was talking about Aldous Huxley and the Doors of Perception, and, like, what schizophrenia was versus like what drug use was, and like what like I don't know, the study of consciousness itself. He was a psychology professor, you know? So I was really interested in what his opinion was on all that. and it was just like completely shot me down immediately. Like, it's like,
Oh.
oh, this is all completely pseudoscience. Like,
Oh, so that was the base
Yeah.
that he turned you down on, was pseudoscience, huh?
yeah.
And so that was a while ago, though. I wonder if
Yeah.
somebody would say that nowadays. I mean, things have
Right.
changed.
Right. Yeah. For sure,
Pseudoscience
for sure.
has really kind of come up on the totem pole.
Yeah, well, and the science of consciousness is and the kind of, I mean, it's philosophy in a lot of ways, and it always has been.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, just thinking about like the implications of like what a neuralink is, right?
Right.
And then being like, okay, if I can connect my brain to your brain and we can talk telepathically, does that mean I can talk just in words, or can I talk in pictures, or can I also talk in feelings?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know, and then the jump is like, well, what if you had 10 people? What if you had 100 people? What if you had a lot of people?
What if you had a lot of people?
Right.
Yeah.
And what kind of consciousness is that at that point,
Sure.
right? You know?
Sure.
It's a whole different type of experience, really.
Absolutely.
You know?
And the more you look, it's like a fractal effect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
there's something to see and discover every level of that.
Yeah.
How deep you look. Yeah.
Yeah, because if people understood each other on that type of level, you know.
Can you just imagine?
I know, I do. Like, and
I do imagine all the time.
Because it's like you come out of it and you're like, oh, well, everyone's kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Absolutely.
Because we're all like arguing about basically the same thing. We all want the same thing,
Yeah.
and it's like, but everyone's just like, well, but I'm in this team and in this camp and
Yeah,
whatever, and boundaries and walls, and it's like, yeah, well, you know, like there are other types of like. Your boundaries are in the wrong spot, man. Like,
Yes.
like boundaries are good. I like, yeah.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Your boundaries are in the wrong spot, man.
Yeah.
That's right. And we're always reassessing our boundaries.
Yeah.
We'll take them away and we'll put some more down. This is the first year of my life I've said no.
Right.
And
right.
I felt like my heart was pounding and I was sweaty and I had all these excuses about why it had to be no, and then now it's just become so much easier
Yeah.
to,
yeah.
you know.
Same thing as pulling the weeds, right? You know, just
Yeah.
trimming the fat.
There you go, that's right.
This is where I'm at. This is what I got to do. Sorry, this is, you know,
Yeah.
I can't be all these places right now.
That's right.
You know,
And your people will understand.
people do understand because
Yeah.
they're trying to do it too.
That's
you know?
right. Yeah, you know,
Mhm.
so they might act, you know, kind of stinky that you cancel an appointment, but what do? They
Yeah.
go to the ice cream store and they have a blast. Like,
Right. Yeah.
so
Exactly. It's a
all
big world. Like,
perspective, yeah.
there's a lot of things that they can keep themselves occupied. They
Sure.
don't- Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and then when you've got a certain skill set, and people want that skill set,
Yeah.
not just for themselves, but it's not always a selfish thing.
Right, yeah.
They also feel, well, she's obviously very excited about what she does. I'll give her the opportunity to
Mhm.
survey my entire 60-acre property and let me know if there's any invasives there, and I'll let her take pictures of birds for free.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say no on that.
Yeah,
But
for real.
I want to say yes.
Yeah.
I want to help you.
But yeah,
That
there's
would take months.
money is energy, right? If you're giving that much energy and you're not getting anything back, it's like, well, what? Like, it's an
I
uneven.
love that you said that, because that's exactly the definition of my boundaries. It's
Yeah,
never about
yeah,
money. It's
yeah.
never. But I have come home
It's your
basically
definition
just
of- yeah.
a bag of bones. Like, just
Yeah.
you can run out
Yeah.
of your juices.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's, yeah, I mean, I try to volunteer where I can, and I try to like give back wherever I can, and like, and that's what you're volunteering. That's what you're giving, you know.
Absolutely.
And then, I mean, and the whole money side of it is, if I get this money, then I can use it to give it back here,
Absolutely.
you know, and then
Yes.
it amplifies everything that you're doing.
And it just feels so good
Mhm.
when I've got a little extra money to tip the way I want to tip.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
support that artist who I've loved forever.
yeah.
You know.
Buy a piece that they're doing, or buy like an
Yes.
album or a T-shirt from somebody,
Yes,
or
absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
like it's, artists are definitely underrated in a lot of ways, or undervalued maybe. it's really, it's a fine line, you know.
Sure, and it is, and I wish that I knew what to do about that, because you know, even the other day I watched okay, so there was a guy who handed me a CD on the street. I was on my way somewhere, wasn't expecting to run into him. He handed me a CD. I said thank you.
Yeah.
And I tucked it away, and I went home and I listened to it, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Really good, or?
It was so good. Yeah, yes.
I've had that experience where it wasn't
You're
so
like,
good.
Ooh,
yeah.
Appreciate you. But I was
take
blown
another route next time.
I was listening, and at first I was like, wow, it's very talented, but it's not like what my soul needed.
Right.
And it's been now 5 years. I popped that CD in just a couple days ago.
Nice.
And whoa.
Yeah.
I was dancing around. I was leaping. I was at the Pilates studio at the time.
Nice.
And it just happened to play it. And I lost my mind with how good it was.
That's awesome.
I needed it, and I was like, I need to let this guy know.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's not fair to feel that much joy and not give that back in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And people appreciate it, you know. Just like yesterday when my buddy called me up about listening to the new podcast, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh man, that's great, you know? Like, I didn't know anyone was watching this. I see numbers, but that's not the same, you know?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm just like, okay, this seems like a good amount of people seen this, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but your goal, it's all about what your goal is.
Yeah, opening the dialogue, right?
Right.
Like seeing what they have to say about what you're saying, and then that includes more people. And it's like, hey, well, you jump on the podcast then, and we'll talk about it. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened, you know?
Yep.
And he's just talking about woodworking and how that, I don't know how that connected to what we were saying, but like it did, you know? Everything does. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
And,
right.
And then the other side of it is I just want to collect stories, right? Like, what is really going on in this area, you know?
Yeah.
What's going on in the area over there?
Yeah.
And yeah, like even like early, I don't know, I'm gonna bring it back to music because I always do, but
Music's super fun, yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. And like before recorded music, right? Like there was very much pockets of traditional music in each town almost.
That's right.
And so the musicians that grew up in that town, very much like in New Orleans now, like New Orleans still has that kind of like what we call the New Orleans vibe, or like even Nashville has like, you know what Nashville sounds like, you know?
Sure.
But like if you, before recorded music, before you could just like go there and listen to it easily, you know, people would like travel around like troubadours and pick up songs from different towns and then play them at the next town, and they'd be like, oh my god, what is this? This is like a time traveler, you know? Like,
absolutely. Man.
But that to me blows my mind, like how music would travel like that, you know?
Absolutely.
I love that like idea, and just storytelling, and you know, that all just enfolds into that.
Absolutely. And you're talking about pre-recorded.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I think about too with theater or any art.
Yeah.
It's so special because it just existed then.
Yeah.
We have ways of recording now.
Yeah.
But truly, even the first expression of that art, I mean, that is a spark, that is magic, that is unique to that moment.
Yeah. And the surrounding moment that they're in, you know, affects greatly how they're going to sing this song, or like, I mean, if everything's just in turmoil around them, it's going to show up, you know? If everything is like golden age things are happening right now, you're going to have a party, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's just how that works. And now with recorded music, it's like a litmus test, you know? Like going back through like deep time and being like, oh man, they must have been having a blast in the 50s, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. There's so much truth to that, though.
Yeah.
And you valued that time and that experience like none other, because life is hard.
Right.
And this was probably for so many people, the most beautiful part of their lives is music or dance or both.
Yeah.
In theater. And I used to do theater, and I remember being about 15 or so, and we didn't record plays. It doesn't always work when you do, and even nowadays with our technology. And I would do theater on the round, so there'd be all these people around us, and it would be so raw and so powerful.
Yeah.
Then when we all held hands at the end, I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
We said goodbye to it.
Yeah.
Such a powerful, amazing thing.
Definitely.
But the patrons who came to loan us their love and their power, I mean, it's that feedback. And that's why we do it. But it is a fleeting moment.
Yeah, and you mentioned I always love the like last part of something, like we were saying, we're all holding hands and say goodbye to it kind of thing. It's like, it's always so hard. It's so powerful to us that we need like this closure.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Willie Nelson, at the end of his set, he'll play a song called "Dance a Little Longer," and it's like, you know, it's like, hey, come on in and dance a little longer.
I love that.
And it's just like a nice way of saying, you know, or stay a little longer, I think it was called, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice way to invite you to stay, but also, hey, but we gotta go.
That's right.
At the same time.
Yeah, well, and we are creatures of ceremony and ritual, and so initiations and closures and celebrations of milestones along the way. I mean, the
ending credits on a movie, you know.
Yeah,
it's like, we don't even really need to do that, but it's just like that's we could just give like publish books or just put it on the internet now, really.
Yeah, that's true.
And you could just look up everybody if you really wanted to, but it's just become traditional or something. And the way storytelling has always been traditional in its own way too.
Oh, absolutely. Storytelling.
Joseph Campbell, right?
Yes, you remember.
Hero of a Thousand Faces. Yeah.
Yes, I'm still just bonkers about him, and I still read one page a day, and that's about all I can handle, because I'm like, okay, you did it again.
It's
like my
heavy.
mind is blown. Like
heavy.
what? And I'll read the same sentence again, and I'll be like, wow, that hit me here, and then I'll read it again. Like, it just keeps on getting deeper. You know, it just hits you different.
Yeah.
Fast forward 10 years, the stuff that inspired me 10 years ago feels so different now, and I understand it so differently now. But that is the power of storytelling. And I can think of a few things that are as quintessential as storytelling.
Right. Yeah, because so I thought about this recently, is like almost like the operating system, right? Like a Windows or a Mac like system
interface
for our brain would be the story, I think. Like that's how we frame a lot of our lives.
Oh, for sure.
And the way we frame just even attempting some, like, it's like, oh well, my story of how I played guitar like started when I was 16 years old, and then I learned these songs. It's like I mean, that's exactly how we tell it.
Absolutely, and that's how we organize it. That's how we remember it. And that's when we review, we remember this part good, this part bad.
Right.
We plug in our emotions to it.
That was that downfall, and that was the struggle.
And the best part, best part. But when you were actually living it, I mean, that 5-minute story was 5 years, and there was a lot of dynamics, ups and downs, failures and successes, of course.
But the narrative self versus the experiencing self.
There you go. Yes. And then so sometimes it seems like we're ripping ourselves off if we just give a synopsis, but But then that's where the good storytelling comes in.
Yeah, because the way I seen it happen, it all unfolded the way it was supposed to. And it all came back, and then I was back home again, and we had a party. And
in its perspective, the same story can change. So when I was 25, telling everyone about my story of when I was 23, because there's a story in there. That story is so much different now. I mean, I have rewritten it because I get to. I'm permitted to.
Exactly.
And my attachments have changed. So the facts are the same,
but you see it completely different.
I see it completely different, and I also would like to change the vibration of my story. I'm not required to have this doomy story.
Exactly.
When I am now so comfortable about it.
Yeah.
And I don't need to spread that part of the doom.
Yeah,
If someone is able to relate, they already know.
definitely.
And if someone's feeling good and I'm giving them information, I am not going to be the one to bring you down, just
Yeah.
so that you could understand how I felt at the time. But sometimes you do want that, right? Sometimes
Right.
you do, and because feeling the abject is so important.
Mhm.
So sometimes you do want to bring people down, not from a selfish
Well,
manner, but that's the beauty of storytelling.
And how do you relate? I mean, like, maybe this person you're talking to is just having a horrible time. And you don't want to be too sunny about your
Yeah,
experience to
that's
them
true.
at the point either.
That's true.
And so a lot of context there.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know what? Maybe they are really happy-go-lucky, and you know, sometimes it's different for everybody, but that could even be a defense mechanism.
Right. Yeah,
Perhaps
yeah.
they try to keep themselves in such a bubble, but see, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So one of the other things about stories that it does for you is it forces you to feel the abject.
Yeah.
Without closing off to it. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. So
Okay.
you could talk about a really horrific period in history where there was lots of genocide,
Right.
and you could talk about it with the facts and the gore and the brutality, or you can turn it into well, actually there's a man who did it. There's a book about the Holocaust called Maus, M-A-U-S.
Yeah. I was just
And-
thinking about that actually.
Yeah, and he is able to convey the same things,
Yeah.
but in a way that is like easier for you to get to, because you
Right.
must feel those feelings.
Yeah.
You must,
Yeah.
because they are there, they are real. Horror and discomfort and all those things, you know what? Those are necessary ingredients to a wholesome experience.
To what life is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You get rid of those, you aren't really living anymore.
Yes,
you
and
know?
when we're experiencing it, we don't see it as a story. We see it as, how am I going to navigate through this? It's not
Mhm.
the same as if we read a story and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
gosh, can you imagine?
Yeah.
It's a good thing that you are. I mean, that's the importance of storytelling.
And how like fresh it is as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Because like we can talk about Genghis Khan all day, no one's really gonna care.
Sure.
And then you talk about Hitler, and everyone gets a little queasy.
A little
you know?
uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Even though I mean, right? You know, like
Yeah.
evil is evil at some point, and then in the future they'll look back and maybe hopefully they won't have some other, madman, to
Yeah.
look back on. But yeah, because I was watching this documentary about a comic book. I'm going to interview a guy about comics here next week.
Awesome.
And so I was watching. I knew he met this guy the other day at the comic book store who
Okay.
like basically wrote all the beginning of X-Men, or at least in the 80s and 90s kind of version of it,
Okay.
where like Chris Claremont is his name. He wrote all of like Storm and all these different characters in, and like
that is so cool.
yeah, and like the stories about how specifically I'm talking about Magneto here, because he was talking about this. He's like the bad guy of the situation, but the way that he got there was through very human like measures, through the Holocaust and through like his daughter dying, and then he meets this other girl and she dies in the same way.
Mhm.
And like it's like parallel stories are happening, and he's acting in what he thinks is the best interest of humanity.
Right.
In a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And so you're painting this character with redeemable qualities, even though he's the bad guy, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. But then I started thinking about it too much, and I started thinking about the whole Hitler thing, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, God damn, like does he have redeemable qualities? And even if I said that out loud, right?
I squirm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, man, because in my eyes, like, he was obviously one of the most evil people in the entire world, right? Obviously. But I think about it in terms of, like, what eugenics was at the time, and, like, this book that he came upon.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who the author was, but he, like, subscribed his whole philosophy to this guy, and, like, he thought he was going to make the world better. if Francis and Crick, the scientists who discovered the helix model of DNA, had discovered it 10 years previous to 1950, like in 1940.
Yeah.
Had they discovered that, World War II or the Holocaust might never have happened, right? Because I mean, you're thinking about like if you know like the basics of what like obviously we know now that eugenics is false because of 1950. Yeah. They developed that model, right. You know. But then, but 10 years previous, they developed a different model. Yeah. You know, like, and me in the scientific, you know, process of what I thought, you know, like, I mean, obviously Hitler had a lot of mental things going on, and he was probably very one-sided, or maybe he was just like, who knows, right? Yeah. But like, what his mental state was. But I don't know. I always like. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different timelines in history that you can like speculate on, like even like what the nuclear if we hadn't dropped the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima, right? Like we might have like not been afraid of dropping it in the Cold War era, right? That's true. Who knows? That's true. Yeah. You know, like there's a lot of different timelines.
Big. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. But it's important to keep that kind of broad perspective, and that's why. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, sorry to bring up such heavy stuff on here.
No, I think it's necessary. I think it's totally necessary, and it's those perspectives that I mean I love when someone like changes my mind. Yeah. I know a lot of people are resistant, but if it happens to me, it's like it like tickles my brain, and I'm like, oh, I believe that now. I understand that now. I feel that now, and now that's part of my perspective. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to kind of share all that and to think about it. But yeah, especially when you think, well, just 10 years previous, I mean, the whole perception of the world was different. It's pretty wild to think of that.
The problem about even saying it out loud is the fact that so many people have so many closed minds, and so many things are spun in so many different ways nowadays. Like even when during the presidential debates, one of the guys, I won't even mention names, right?
Please don't.
But like was basically saying that Cuba had a good philosophy of education. Mm-hmm. And you know, that's all he said. But then the whole media apparatus immediately turned around and started being like, oh, well, you think that communism is the best, Castro was the greatest leader of the free world, apparently, right? Yeah. And it's like,
they just throw everything in there.
Okay, great. Like, that's, you say one thing.
I know, yeah.
You know, and it's just
you
like.
You probably like burnt spaghetti. Like, what? Like, it's, you know, it's, they just throw it all in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all completely based off of like a self-preservation of the system that the people spinning it have. You know, they're trying to keep this whole thing together, you know, which in some respects is commendable because it's the only way we've ever really known, I guess, you know, like we know what a growth economic model is, but then like what's a worker co-op, right? Like what are all these other things, you know? But
we're a really young species, and things seem really big and intense to us, and you take us away, you know, like you pull us out into the landscape, and then all of a sudden, like it's like when you see a huge open sky and you see the whole horizon, you're like, wow, my problems are really tiny.
Yeah, definitely.
They felt so heavy and just inescapable, and then now they just seem so small. Because look what there is. There's opportunity, and there's breath.
We're on a tiny blue dot in the billions and the billions.
That's right. Yes. So.
Yeah, it's just squabbling at the point from that perspective. Yeah. You know, from the moon, you're looking at it, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah, like, you guys are kind of cute.
Yeah, like you got all your tag words. Good job, guys.
Good job, guys. Yeah.
No one knows what you're even saying to each other. And you're just like, oh, anger.
It helps to know, like, you know, I'll have some kind of funky day out in public where everything is just, I'm just looking around like, but I have to remember, well, we're all weird. Yeah. Like, we're all weird, and we all have a kind of day, and we all are subject to our beliefs. Both what we want to believe and what we've been taught. Yeah. So I'm just like, we're all silly, and it helps so much. Yeah. To just not let anything, like nothing, not nothing, I'm sure, but it's really hard to offend me. Yeah. because we're all just so silly, you know,
Right.
and I've come to terms with that.
It's what was it? If when you're a child, everything seems very optimistic and positive, and the world's amazing, and then as an adult, things just get really gray and realistic. And then once you get past that point, you're like, oh, everything's surreal.
Yeah.
Like everything, like what is actually happening?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, right.
Because I don't really know.
Yeah, absolutely. What age is that supposed to happen? Because I'm there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, because I mean that's the most important part. Like I don't know what's going on with you, man. Like, are you really angry about what I'm saying right now, or is it that like?
Yes, absolutely.
Like your tummy hurts right now. Is that what's? Is that? And you just, oh,
so
I got
much-
thorn in my foot. Oh, like
There's so much truth to that.
right. Like you're choosing to be angry right now and reacting and like a child, you know.
Most people aren't present either.
That's true. Yeah.
So, like, when I arrive somewhere and I'm getting ready to do something, I will often clap my hands real loud in the car.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
my energy and my thoughts are here, and each clap is like, it's a horrible, uncomfortable
Yeah.
feeling to clap.
Right.
To wake yourself up. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But it does. It's like a vibration, and it brings you closer and closer and closer to yourself each time.
Yeah.
And so I will always, if I have to teach, or if I've got like a huge workshop. Some of my workshops are 3 hours long.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, my heart will be like this, and I'll think I'm ready, and I'll think I'm focused because I spent 2 weeks preparing. But it's not until I do that moment where I bring in my attention to where I'm at right now, and I'll say that out loud sometimes. I am right here, right now.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, and it won't feel right. It'll sound like someone else's voice. So I say it again out loud. I am right here, right now. And what it does is it brings me into my present moment, and I have a quantifiable, better experience. And so also these people that we encounter, they probably did not clap before they walked into the store.
Exactly.
Their minds is probably all over.
Yeah. And they think that their thoughts are real, you know?
That's right.
And
they think their thoughts are real.
that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Like, really. It reminds me of a practice of, I don't even know if it is a practice, but I saw it a place, and they're like, oh, when you meditate on these things, you drink this banana onion juice in between.
Banana onion juice?
Right, because it throws you so far out of your normal.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
And I've done it before. Like
You
I
had
put
banana
bananas and
onion
onions
juice?
in a blender once. Actually a couple times now. Like, and it works because you like
Wow.
in my practice, it was years and years ago I did this. I don't know, I forgot about it. But like I was like I would go like start, you know, like I would be focusing on certain aspects of, and then really getting deep with it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going off the rails. And then you drink this banana onion juice, and you're like, it completely clears you. You're like, whoa, okay. And then after a while, it starts tasting like pickles, which is really weird. That like those two flavor combination. Anyway, right? it's
now
odd.
I have this new thing to think about.
And you're just confused for a moment, and you're like, okay, anyway, back to the next thing.
You into your presence, kind of.
Yeah.
So that's just like the clapping.
That's what I'm associating.
That's
For
poignant.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's like in the experience, something in the experience. People ring bells and things, you know.
Oh
like,
yeah, I'm a bell ringer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my favorite bell, and I'm like, man, my life just feels weird right now. It feels kind of dusty. So that's how I dust my reality.
Nice.
I take my bell.
Yeah.
And I ring it, and I let it just kind of. The tone is just singing.
Nice.
And it just feels like it's just dusting everything. And if something is out of focus, it brings it back into focus, and it just cleans things up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, you could talk about why. There's the metaphysical aspect of it. There's the sound of it. Sound is obviously super significant. And it's also, once again, we're coming back to the ritual of it.
Yeah.
I would like to be focused right now. And I'm doing this thing to help me bring in my power.
Yeah.
I'm more powerful when I feel such and such way.
Yeah. So to bring it back to, I guess, why we're having this conversation.
We always do that. We always go right into existentialism. It's nice. Not a lot of people. Some people just look at you and go.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and generally this show tends to go that direction a lot.
It's your show after all.
Yeah. And that's where I live. And
That's right.
You know, I'm constantly battling that in my own life, I guess, you know, just trying to keep steady, trying to keep, you know, the thoughts in perspective and where I need them to be, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you marry the quantum world with your love for the physical world, or maybe the physical world isn't what I mean, but the hyper-physical world. So you the science.
Okay.
You've never really strayed from that. You're always intrigued, and you've always got something in that realm that's got your fascination and kind of anchors you. But you always, at the same time, apply it to greater consciousness, and that is not only super cool but super important. You know.
Yeah. It's like a balance, right? Like, what is entanglement? And then what are the applications of that? Mm-hmm. And then what does that mean, you know, on a greater aspect for humanity, right? I had this idea, and I don't know, I have a lot of weird ideas about science sometimes and things, but I was trying to, like, got real deep into, I think it's the 5th state of matter is called the Bose-Einstein condensate.
I don't know that.
Okay. Yeah. So they actually produced some of this on campuses in the 90s. They still do it. The first time they ever did it was in the middle 90s. Mm-hmm. And basically they were able to take this group of atoms, this matter, and like cool them down to almost absolute zero temperature, like on the Kelvin scale. Okay. Like negative, like 273 degrees Celsius, right? Something like that. And so when you do that, what happens is you create this, the matter turns into this condensate of atoms that lose their identity, okay? All of the atoms in this condensate, they start acting as if they're all one atom, okay? They all kind of like sync to each other in a sense, okay? And so I thought it would be great, like started thinking about it in terms of like, okay, let's say that it did act as if it was all one atom, okay? And then we applied that to like quantum entanglement, right? Okay. Now, the news story from China where they were able to entangle one atom and teleport it, right? Okay. To a different spot. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's intriguing, right? If you can then, right, say, create a bubble of this Bose-Einstein condensate, which would obviously be an engineering nightmare. But if you did possibly do it, yes. And then you had this whole sphere that acted like one atom, and you were able to entangle it with another atom in another part of the world or another part of the galaxy, right? Like you could maybe teleport there, right? Yeah. Like based off of, I mean, just news stories that I saw. I don't know. I mean,
it's feasible, isn't it?
Right, yeah. And then,
it's in there.
And so that's my next comic book I'm writing.
Nice.
It's based off Flash Gordon and the movie Predator.
Okay.
It's called the Reverse Predator Flash Gordon is what I'm calling it, right? If you don't know what that means, like, it's pretty obvious, but I mean, I'll just put it out there.
Let me know when you release that.
Yeah. I wrote it at one point. I need to get back to it. I forgot that I was doing that.
Nice. Sometimes you gotta take a break and come back re-inspired with some crazy new sci-fi.
What always happens is the festival happens, and then it takes over my life for a month, you know?
Yeah.
And luckily, we scaled everything down a lot this year, so I'm not as stressed and I'm not as busy.
I could feel that.
Yeah. We're only doing like one day, and like I'm not paying for so many things and like stripping everything down. Oh, that reminds me of a thing I need to do. What? I still have a week and a half or something.
Before
before that goes down.
If I were you, I would have to put it in my planner right now.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to think about in the world.
Yeah.
And you're like, well,
I know.
I will think about that, but in the meantime, there's this new exciting thing to think about.
Exactly. I'm running on lists and lists for
Oh
the festival
gosh, I know.
all the time.
Ah.
If we don't have lights at the festival, you know, we'll have a couple lights. I have lights in my apartment. I'll just bring them there and put them on the stage. But I want to get a bunch more lamps. Just like that's the vision. Is just a ton of lamps.
You need some more lamps?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
more lamps. All right.
That's where we're at right now. That's my next objective, I think.
That shouldn't be too difficult. Yeah.
Go to the restore.
Yeah. I have a few I can donate. I mean, I'm sure that most people do.
Yeah.
People are like, I like that lamp. I'm never going to put it up, but I like it. I like it.
I used to have a lamp that I brought to all the Great Grandpa BB shows.
I think I met that lamp.
Yeah. A lot of people know
5 or
it.
6 years ago.
Yeah, with the moose and the.
That's right.
And the pine
Super
tree
cool
on
lamp.
it. Yeah.
Whatever happened to that lamp?
It disappeared one day.
Oh, okay.
Probably about 3 years ago. But I had it at every show up to that point.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That was long lived. Very well. Very good.
Yeah. It had its time in the sun, so to say, or in the dark.
Yeah.
But it lit the area.
Yeah.
I had a good time. I don't know, pranking, making a joke like to sound engineers who. I'm just like, well, I need to mic the lamp too, because it gives it this warmth. You know what I'm saying? Some of them bought it, and I was just amused.
And you're the kind of person, you would just go on and let them think whatever they want. You would never correct them.
Yeah, I mean, like,
that.
just the words that people use in music and just trying to describe it are so quaint. I don't know. I mean, just like, oh, it has this, like, it has a sharpness to it that I like, you know? It has this, like, it's bubbly in this spot, and it's really wanted to, like, make it bigger.
And then
it just has to.
And then you get the sounds.
Yeah, like,
and then it's kind of like, and then there's no words.
It has this vibe, and it just keeps going back and forth, like it's like making your brain turn into mush, you know? Like, it's amazing. I love music when people are trying to describe what they're trying to accomplish, you know?
It's kind of just fun to mess with people's minds in general.
Yeah,
I mean, in an innocent way, but it's almost.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do so much. I mean, my specialty in high school was doing the unexpected, like the very much unexpected. And I enjoyed it because I was very okay. I was the person always suspended. I've been expelled a couple times, but I was never a bad kid. I was just so. No one knew what I was doing. I was so outrageous, and so I would just do things that totally contradicted people's experiences, and they couldn't assume what I was doing. I made a lot of enemies for it, but I also made a lot of friends, a lot of strange friends that I would never have, our circles would never have.
Cross paths. Exactly.
I used to dress up in like Halloween costumes and show up at school, but like not Halloween, like from scratch at Goodwill.
Okay.
So I came in as a 90-year-old woman once.
Nice.
For no reason. I just walked into homeroom, and I was a tiny old lady, and I just had all my polyester on and my wig, and I spent my whole day as this 90-year-old woman.
What is reality, good sir?
So whatever would make people they
only
would
wrong
laugh.
Answers. Only wrong
answers. Whatever would make people squirm, or they wouldn't even laugh or be mad because there was no category for this behavior yet. And that's what I love to do.
Trying to be cool right now? Is this cool? Is this trying to be cool?
Is it cool? Is it funny?
Yeah.
Is this weird?
Yeah.
So that's the human psyche is really kind of a fun thing to play with. And
because as soon as you find what's normal, then it's real easy to
it gets really fun.
Yup.
We were talking about the power of the mind actually today in Pilates.
Oh, cool.
I had a student who's had she's had a number of children. We'll just call it a number.
Yeah. Okay.
Double.
It's a number.
Double digits. So she's in a world of need. I'm so thrilled to work with her. I mean, she is so fantastic. But one thing that she struggled with is...
That'd have to streamline you, like madness. Like,
what's that?
That kind of madness would have to streamline, like...
Well, there's
every action that you're doing has to just be
issues.
forward.
Yeah, like we've got to work on you today.
Yeah.
Well, there was a problem with hyper awareness, and you wouldn't think that in an exercise, especially one that is like body aware as Pilates.
Yeah.
I had to pull her out of the confines of her mind.
Yeah.
To tell her basically, because she'd say, "Oh, Am I supposed to be contracting right now? Is my glute contracted right now? Is my foot contracted right now?" I mean, and I'm like, I went over the importance of not the like command and response in charge, being in hyper control of everything, to just allowing yourself to visualize. And so the discussion went from where she was at, kind of stuck in her head.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to mechanically raise my arm. I'm going to soften my elbow. And everything was like, she had to think about everything. Yeah. Which was extremely inefficient. Yeah. And I'll spare you the reasons why we don't do that.
Puppet master.
Yes. But then I'm like, I pulled her out of that, and I was able to teach her the significance of visualization. Okay. So visualization, if I'm all right, well, reach up towards, the sky and just imagine that you're breathing light and air into your spine. Yeah. So instead of saying, "Oh, my spine," because you can't really do that, because now I'm all tense here and I'm all tense here. Okay. I'm long, but I'm tense. Yeah. But if you just think, "Oh, I've breathed light and space into my vertebra," then all of a sudden your body responds.
I need to do that now too.
Yeah, I know, I've been bad. So it's like your body responds to what you believe. Yeah. And so we had to get her past the confines of structure and to move into the liberty of imagination. Yeah. And allow her body to respond to that instead. And that was probably just the funnest, most, as a Pilates instructor now, and I've been practicing for 10 years. Yeah. That moment to me was such a powerful moment, because I watched someone who was in their head and
completely transformed,
barely able to move. Yeah. To, I'm just gonna relax my mind and just focus on imagining, and then the way that her body responded. And it was the first time she has exercised in the past, I think, 2 years, that it didn't hurt her. Wow. Because her body was able to respond the way it's supposed to.
Definitely.
And it just brings us back to the importance of internal dialogue, how we choose to think, and how our body can respond. And of course, there's lots of studies out there that show, the effects of, what am I thinking of now? I totally had a brain fart.
Like a placebo effect?
Placebo.
In a way?
Yeah, kind of. So there's a lot of studies about that, but it's not always about like what we're putting into our bodies. It's also what we can just think of and put out into the world. And I think that is something that is missed out in education. And so perspective is actually, I would say, we garden. And we do Pilates. We do all kinds of stuff. We study birds. We do all these things. But what we're really doing is nourishing the way we think. Yeah. We're nourishing perspective. And that is what makes us super.
Yeah, because it keeps you completely grounded, in a lot of ways. I know gardening, keep my hands in the dirt, that's always, I mean, that's one of the main benefits. I would say. You're just there. You're like living in the world, You're not like you were saying earlier about being separated from the outside, It's like when we're locked in these little house bubbles, Yeah. It's like we become comfortable. Yeah. And then we stop like challenging ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. Oh gosh, comfort is so dangerous.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. And when you're in that house bubble, you're encountering yourself over and over again. Yeah. It's the mirror, it's the thing you left on the counter, it's just you. Yeah. And that feels good sometimes, and sometimes we want that, but it's like if you were in an airtight box, I mean, you would run out of oxygen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of the same philosophy.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
You're just consuming your own ideas over and over again, and who knows what comes out of that.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, sometimes good things come out of that, but it's like, more often than not, if it's a good thing coming out of that, to me, it's because I'm focusing on something outside of that house.
Right.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
And
You've
I'm
got
writing
goals.
about that.
Yeah.
You know? Or I'm
yeah.
writing about a person, or what they mean to me, or, you know, what the reactions are there, or, you know, events that are happening, and, like, I don't know. I mean, like, but if you're just locked inside your head in a feedback loop, it does get really dicey, you know? That's isolation, that's, you know, paranoia, all that stuff starts kicking in.
Absolutely. And,
you know,
and I have some friends who have recently reached out to me. They want to know how they can meet their tribe. They have discovered things about themselves that they're happy to have discovered, things about their personality that they appreciate.
Yeah.
They're looking at their environment and they're thinking, I need to modify my environment to better fulfill what I want for myself.
Yeah.
But they don't know how.
For sure.
Now, there's a lot of things in the community. I mean, the college here, oh gosh, you walk into a room and they're like, how can I help you? How can I help you?
Right.
But you have to take that step.
Yeah.
Also, it can be very intimidating or overwhelming. Going public for help is a huge thing, and it's almost like the last thing that we do because we want it to be a little bit more organic in the meantime.
Yeah, it's personal problems sometimes too. You know. Like,
oh yeah,
and it's
like I can't do that now.
Right.
I have all this development to do before I even get there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I have this problem, but $500 isn't going to fix it. I want someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And I also have to be, I can't be your personal pocket person.
Right.
I wish I could.
Yeah.
But here's what I can do. I can tell you these things that are happening and things. And so there's lots of clubs and especially in the COVID era, there's actually so many opportunities for networking. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be in person if that's not your thing.
Right.
All these Zoom meetings, I'm on probably 3 or 4 Zoom meetings a week learning about the stuff I already care about.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben Frank was there the last time. Hey, Ben.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we meet in person at the zoo and it's like, wow. Like, but it really does work like that. And for myself, because I'm not a social animal, I just do all my nerd stuff and then I meet people in my nerd things. But because I also have a mental barrier where I struggle if I'm not earning money while I'm living, because single mom, and also always when you're like an entrepreneur or you're like self-employed, it's always on your mind that I need to make sure that I'm fulfilling my responsibilities. Okay, so instead of just going to clubs for the sake of going to clubs, I'll be your board member. I can do that.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm the conservation chairperson for the Black River Audubon Society. So I do I overlook all things related to conservation.
Yeah.
I'm also a master gardener. So through Ohio State University. So I got to do these things where I started off alone.
Yeah.
And I have such a strong network now, I don't know what to do with it. And I have people looking at me now and they say, you act like you don't have friends. You have so many friends.
Yeah.
And it was like, BB, it was like last week where I was like, I sat and I was like, I have a lot of friends. I was like, say it again. Took a sip of water. I have a lot of friends.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I'm 35 years old. I never had a lot of friends.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, I got tired of that lifestyle, and I made some big changes, and everybody develops.
Yeah.
And so that is like a big part of what I recommend to people is do your thing best that you can, but accept that people will come into your life. Accept it.
Yeah.
Let it happen, because I would not do that. And I blamed everybody else for not liking me.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to like me because some part of me identified with my loneliness.
Right.
And I still struggle with that, but I'm allowed to. Today I feel like being lonely. and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And tomorrow I'm gonna meet with my old friend. Like it's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel that on a lot of levels. There was a lot of things said right there, and I had some responses.
Noted.
I wanted to talk about. We've mentioned the word nerd a few times today. Like, I was just thinking about like, what's the opposite of a nerd? Okay, and I think that's like, if you try to define what an opposite of a nerd would be, no one would want to be that, you know? Like, and I'm like...
Yeah, I can't think of a way to describe it where it sounds
like,
appealing.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Like,
no, learning. No, I don't. No. Enlightenment is a huge turnoff.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so, like, I was thinking about, like, how do adults meet other people? And a lot of times our mind goes to like church or the bar, you know? And like that's at least how it kind of used to be.
That's true. Yeah.
You know,
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
And that's really hard. Because there's a lot of stigmas with both of those types of environments and a lot of pitfalls.
Yeah.
You know? But I mean, as far as how I meet people is through music, obviously, you know?
That's how I met you.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it
we were out
Hootin' Spoots
in nature.
Hootenanny.
Yeah, a Halloween party or something.
Yeah, it was a Halloween thing.
No, was it Christmas party?
No, it was Halloween. There was a tarot reader, I remember.
I don't know. I think I was playing an old Nat King Cole song.
That actually is true, and you would have only sang that around Christmas.
Yes. Yeah.
We had a fire, I remember that.
Yeah, I was like on a front porch of that little hut thing or whatever. Or no, there was 2 different times I was out there.
Yes.
And the one time we were all inside.
Yep.
Yeah.
With your lamp.
Yeah.
And then, and the other time you were on a stage. Yeah, so there was the Hootenanny.
Yeah.
And the Spookananny. I don't remember what it was called. But yeah, okay.
Annie was definitely around.
Yep.
She had her gun. I don't know.
Good times.
Good times, you know? Yeah, for real.
That's how you meet people, and the fact that you are thinking, I'm going to go support.
That's my church, and also I'm generally at a bar.
That is true.
You know?
That's true.
How do you bring church into a bar and get away with it?
Like, you can't bring the bar into the church.
Yeah, how do you bridge these worlds?
Music.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, I love that.
It's this really in-between world where I can tell people that there's wisdom in the water, and the water will speak to a man if you listen to him. You know, like, I literally say that to everybody.
I just got like so excited. Like, oh my god, I love that. Yes,
that's how I end my set.
That's how you do it
every time. Yeah.
And they don't understand words.
They don't have to understand. It's the idea and it's the energy.
You planted it. It's there, and all it has the only option it has now is to either maintain and always be there or grow.
All I have to be is an eccentric character.
Yeah.
There's wisdom in the water. The water speaks to a man if you listen, but most people don't know how to hear. You know?
Yeah, and then they go and they're like, am I listening? Am I listening? The next time they're around a river or a creek, they're going to be like, I don't feel anything. Yeah. And then they're going to think, am I listening right?
Yeah, and like even myself, I don't even know if I'm listening to myself sometime, you know? And like I'll have to like go down to the river and be like, am I really listening though? Do I really hear the current? What is currently happening here?
And then your mind goes off from there.
Mm-hmm.
It can be the trail of thoughts that we have. It could be the fresh perspective that we get. I mean, when nature speaks to us, there is no like way it does that.
No,
that comes from inside. And we only know it happened when all of a sudden we feel inspired.
When our way aligns with the way, maybe, right? Or,
resonance in general.
Right.
Yeah, it's that
Right.
resonance, and we're like,
Yeah.
I think it did. I think the water spoke to me today.
Yeah.
And it could be because they're looking at it and it's sparkly, and they go into a trance, and they're like, wow, that's like beautiful. To me, that's enough of an accomplishment for somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
That day.
What we consider success and what we consider accomplishments in the world are very much dependent on what we think they are.
Yes, that's true. That's been my conversation with people all week. Like, well, depends on your...
Yeah. Is this... Well, did you fail, or
it's perspective. So
yeah.
I just got a camera. Somebody gifted me a camera, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, now I have a camera. It's literally the most... It's not the fanciest camera, but it's still the fanciest thing I own.
Right.
I don't have a television or anything, so I'm like, I bought a special super padded bag for it and everything. And I met with a photographer 2 days ago because I'm like, I owe it to the person who gave me this camera, and I owe it to my own experience to know how to use this thing.
Yeah.
Especially I'm taking pictures, or I'm trying to look at all these like unusual birds and everything, and it's nice when you can get it in a photo, because it's kind of like Pokemon,
right,
where you see it and then you get it a picture of it, you've effectively captured it. Okay, so there's a lot of parallels between birding and Pokemon.
There you go.
But I met with him, and that was one of, he taught me a lot of like technical jargon where I just knew it wouldn't make any sense to me until I was practicing it. So I left a little defeated. I was like, I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I still have to only practice, and that's still the only way I'm gonna learn.
Yeah.
I still have to screw up a ton.
Ahead. Yeah.
Well, but then I realized later that night that the one thing that he said to me was, your day is not determined by whether or not you achieved what you set out to achieve.
Yeah.
Because success is all about perspective, and here we go right back to his perspective again.
Yeah.
He says, when I'm teaching my photography class, I give everybody a camera and I say, go take a picture of that picnic table, and they say, well, what do you mean? Where from? What settings? He says, just take a picture of the table. Yep, that's right. And he said
all of those questions are exactly
all of those
the
questions.
Answer.
That's right. He said one kid came back and had laid on his back underneath the picnic table and took a picture from up. And I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah,
but he did.
exactly.
And he found a way to do it or whatever.
It's the classic creativity test, like, here's a thimble, like, how many different ways can you use it or something,
absolutely.
Like, I heard recently, back in the 50s, they were really stringent on this like IQ test thing, and then like they realized that all of those people it doesn't really predict success, what we call success in life.
Yeah.
But creativity tests more or less did, in its own way. The more creative people could be or could become, the more the better that you are just to navigate life, because life is not linear, right? Like, life does not work with a straight focused intelligence. Like, I don't know, time is circular. Like, as far as the lessons that we learn in time, I think are very circular. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't mean to be too existential here, but like, I always know that, like, if there's a lesson and I'm not getting it, it's going to come back around.
Yeah,
again,
that's right.
That
is right. You can even think, well, all right, so maybe I screwed this up, or maybe you don't think that. Maybe you think I would have done that differently, or you think I did my best.
Yeah.
I said that last night for whatever reason. I can't remember because it was in passing, but I thought to myself, I could feel this way, or wait, no, I did well. I know I didn't come to my full understanding, but I will revisit this. It will come back.
Yeah.
And even when you do nail something, when you're like, I'm so spiritual, because you just feel so empowered. Like, this is me now. This is now who I am.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn that again.
Anymore. I don't do that anymore. Because I know the next thing is about to hit.
Yeah.
Because you never really get there. You're never going to get there.
You never do. And good job today.
Yeah.
But we'll do more some other time. And you will learn sometimes. I mean, I'll read my old journal entries and I'll be like,
Yeah.
I already learned this?
Yeah.
Like, I learned this 15 years ago?
This summer has been crazy to me. Like, honestly, like, as far as, like, personal relationships have gone, like, like, no one would even consider it an actual relationship, maybe, but, like, it was definitely teaching me a whole, like, gamut of things, and I've been documenting everything meticulously because,
Nice.
like, just watching it,
'Cause
like,
it's like
watching
firing-
myself,
yeah.
like, happen in
Yeah.
this. It's like none of this could have been planned. None of like, or it
And it's
absolutely
so
was planned.
profound.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's like I keep going back and reading it. I'm like, I can't believe I made it past this point.
Yeah.
It's all going to be downhill from here. And then like every single week, it would be the exact same.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe I barely made it through that one.
I know.
You know? Like-
and you're like, how can I word this differently to be more intense? Like,
Yeah.
I mean it this time.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
because I'm looking at some of my journal entries, and it'll be, and I'll feel so.
Sometimes daily. It
Oh,
was like-
absolutely.
It was like, I can't believe, and then like I would just physically just pull away
Yeah.
from situations the next day because I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, we need to not talk for a week now, okay?
Yeah.
Like this isn't.
That's huge.
It's not healthy for me
That's
to be
huge.
talking to
and you had
right now.
documented it, so you
Yeah.
were able to.
Yeah, I know exactly what's going on right now with myself, you know, and I haven't been eating, you know, like
Yeah.
things are being affected, you know, like physically, and like I'm not in control of that.
Yeah.
You know, so I have to take control and make my boundaries.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah, and it's tough.
Yeah.
And especially if.
because I didn't want to.
Yeah, especially if we love or care for that person.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that you and I have a lot in common with that way. It's like, oh, I can,
yeah.
you know,
yeah,
I can, I'm willing to, I will.
yeah, yeah.
And then we come home and we're like, we're small and we're frail. And I mean, sometimes there's been times I've given people so much that
yeah.
it's taken me like days and days and days of
To
like laying in bed. I could
recuperate.
barely move.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Because there is like, you know, an energy bank, and like we mentioned earlier, and you got to be careful with that, but documenting it is so important.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how literally the same sentence.
Right.
I mean, it'll be the same sentence. And then so when I write in my journals nowadays, which I do typically new moon and full moon to help
Okay.
me navigate,
Yeah.
I get super prepared for those days in a way that's like kind of like comfortable and casual leading up to those events. And when I'm writing my super profound
Right.
epiphanies, you know, because I am
Yeah.
always receiving information and asking for information
Yeah.
and guidance. I always feel like I have to word it in a really intense way because I'm feeling really intense and super inspired.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
ultimately, the way that it comes out into the words, when I read it next week, I will write that same sentence, but
Yeah.
feel it so different.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For
So
sure.
it's crazy how
yeah, you just
that
keep
happens.
feel like you're writing the same thing over
You
and
do.
over again in
Yeah.
circles, and like,
Yeah.
I felt that throughout time periods in my life for sure, and then like things
Repeating time
change.
periods, you mean?
Yeah, like, well, in a time period, I'll recognize myself running in circles.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
especially I can tell with my writing. You know, whereas I just recently I've been able to kick the last circle, like in the
Okay.
last week probably, right? Where like I've completely taken a whole different line, where I'm just like this morning, like I was just like, hey, you know, like I woke up real early, I made a quiche, I was listening to TikTok all morning, and this guy said that dolphins help women give birth, and that makes kids smarter, and then there's, you know, like, and I'm just like, I'm just recounting things that I think are interesting and good, right?
Yeah.
Just things that I'm grateful for
Yeah.
knowing or something
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
Right? And so instead of like trying to like hardline all of these lessons that I know that I'm learning necessarily, right? And maybe I just don't want to focus on it right now. Maybe I just want to be like grateful right now.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And it's
Maybe I just want to be grateful right now.
Yeah.
That is so important.
I'm tired of the lesson part right now.
Yes.
You know, like,
Yes.
and you get to a point, you know,
Yes.
and you just got to cut it off.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm one of those 11/11 people. 11's always
Yeah.
been my favorite number.
Nice.
And so it's like
synchronicities. And,
it's so fun. And it can be whatever you want. Whatever you want to believe, that's what you see. And
exactly.
so it's fun. It's a game.
Exactly.
I always like to play games with my paradigm.
I have my own numbers as well.
Yeah, it's like, it's just, and it could be true or not. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's fun for me to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just kind of pick and choose what I want to believe because it's fun. It's enchanting. And, you know, Joseph Campbell talks a lot about the importance of enchantment. And so that's kind of goes back to that. I'm just thinking about like when I'm looking into my my journal entries and everything, and just how redundant it is, and I can't remember exactly what I was gonna cycle back to say, because then I was like, oh yeah, enchantment goes back into our conversation, and that's kind of what I would like to talk about is the choice.
Okay.
You know, so like if we are okay with our understanding of the world, if we're okay with not being correct,
or being in control,
we get to choose we get to choose enchantment. But what that means is, because you know, saying enchantment will always turn somebody off. But if you say, well, we inherently, and there's more gentle ways to say this, but you and I have already talked about this. You pick and choose what to believe. Anytime any information comes across your screen, you have already determined if you're going to believe it or not. And we do that.
Or how it's going to affect you.
And so, we don't have control over these things, but we do have a moment in time where information comes into our experience, and we organize it. We determine where it's going to go. And that's why I said earlier, like when my ideas are changed, like when someone changes my idea, I'm like, woo, that was exciting. I believe that now. And I'll tell somebody, I believe that now. And they're like, it's you. Because people don't know that you can do that.
Right.
They don't know that you can pick and choose what to believe.
No, you can completely reinvent yourself day to day.
Yeah, and so I choose to be enchanted. And so like with the new moon rituals or preparedness and on my lists, I'm just picking and choosing what makes me feel good. I'll hold on to that. You know, and it's important that we experience those things that don't feel so good. But there is a certain level of, you know what, I believe that. I'm just going to believe that. So like 11/11, I believe that. And that's what I was going to say is like now when it's 11/11, sometimes I'll be like, all right, I want health for everyone that I love and everyone who they love. I want, you know, prosperity and harmony. And I go big, or I'm lazy and I go, I'm just really grateful. And I'll just sit there and I'll be like, really grateful. And I'll be like, I know you want more from me, but I'm just really grateful. You know what I mean? Like that was me yesterday. I was like, just grateful.
And I think that's I think that stymies a lot of people from like prayer, or from like the whole fallacy of like careful what you wish for kind of thing, right? Like I don't know necessarily what to say because I don't know what is gonna happen.
I don't know much at all.
I don't know what's best. You know,
I don't know what's best, and so it makes you afraid to pray.
Right.
Absolutely.
Unless you're just ungodly vague. I just hope that things, you know, unfold the way that they're going to unfold, and, you know, like, that's probably what's going to happen anyway. So, cool. Great. Well, like, good job. High five, everyone. All right.
I did well.
I did my part. So, where are you guys at?
Oh, God. And sometimes we have a prayer, and it's bursting from us already. We woke up with the prayer, and we use these opportunities to pray. And I just want to be clear that prayer to me is, because prayer, I believe, is different for everybody. My understanding of prayer and how I use it for myself is I've got all this energy, and I have words that are associated with the energy. We can always try to kind of describe our energies and our feelings. I just know I've got this like really big feeling, and I don't want to just keep it in my body, and I know that the universe will receive it and shower it down, and so I just kind of bottle up my feelings, and it's with love that I put into the universe what I am kind of wishing for or dreaming of, but it's always with, you know best.
Yeah.
Take this energy
Yeah.
and put it to where it will go best, better than I think, or you know what I mean. You got to be really careful with the words that you use,
Right.
because if you're like, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get sick. Well, I mean, the universe kind of only heard the word sick.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're thinking wellness, not only do you feel better because you're saying a more positive word, but that's what the universe is going to bring back.
Yeah.
So that's what prayer is to me. It's an energetic communion with the universe. I don't have to understand the universe to have that communion.
Yeah.
I am of the universe. The universe is of me.
Yeah.
So it's already there. And
Right.
and there's certain other religious paradigms that I have followed that have not given me that beauty or that freedom.
Yeah.
And there was major separation and almost like rebuttal.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And almost like, okay, well, I'm not worthy today.
Right.
Or I have to pray for 5 hours. And I would. As a child, I would pray for like 4 hours a day.
Wow.
Because I didn't want to leave anybody out. And then
Yeah.
while I'm praying, oh, please heal my grandma. She's got gout. And grandma's dog. And then also the hamster. You know what I mean? Like you think that you have to pray for the whole world. But thank God it comes down to energetics.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I'm already worthy. I'm already here. I'm already of and listening.
So I have a take on that.
Yeah, please give it to me.
So, and you said it yourself, what you're putting out there is coming back to you, right? What I think that means in terms of like, let's say that there's no free will, right? Let's say that we are completely not in control of any of the actual actions that are happening in the world, okay? But we're only in control of our perception of it. And we keep saying this, right?
Yeah.
So like, it is true that there's no free will. It may be true that like there are no accidents, right?
Yeah.
But we can choose to perceive however way we want to.
Yeah.
And that in turn will make us be the person that we are.
Yeah,
I guess, right?
absolutely. Look, maybe no one's going to answer my prayer, but I feel better.
Yes.
Thinking that it will.
Yes.
I feel better. I don't care.
Yes.
Ultimately, the things that I believe in, BB, if someone was like, that's actually been proven it's not real, I'd be like, well, I still like it. And I think I'm going to hold on to it because I like that.
Right.
Does the full moon grant your wishes?
Right.
Super simplistic way of saying it, but
yeah.
Does it really? I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't have to. I don't even ultimately care if it does or not. I just know what it does for me, and I know the power I get from it and the way I'm able to micro manifest.
It's it's really interesting. I like it.
And we always come back down to that perspective because really that's you've got your cut and dry science, and then you've got your perspective.
Yeah.
And you've got your creative, kind of imaginative energy, but then you've got your perspective. And so it's really, and that's also what brings us, I like you. I like them.
Yeah.
I don't really get along with this person. And it's like all of those perspectives, and like you said, with certain bad people, like maybe you just haven't gotten the right key to their perspective.
Right.
Because we are all human, and we are all originally connected.
Yeah, and so think about you said the word resonance earlier, resonance, where in physical terms it just means that let's say I'm going to try to shatter this wine glass with my voice, you know, and I find the pitch that it's ringing at, and then you sing at that pitch until it resonates and just shatters and it self-destructs, because what happens in that material is that there's a vibration, like a wave that goes there and back at a certain frequency, and if you ring that bell at the exact moment that it comes back every single time, it'll amplify that energy in that material.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah. that's how that works, and that's how like there's an example of like a bridge, I think in Tacoma, Washington, that like they didn't engineer the vibrations that would happen when the wind came across the bridge.
I didn't even know you had to do that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so they build bridges with dampening in them and things.
Okay.
To account for the frequency that can happen, where like if that wind hits that bridge at a certain speed for a certain amount of time, it'll start rocking back and forth and destroy itself, like a bridge in Tacoma, Washington did. Okay.
Wow.
And ever since then, it's the whole field of vibrational mechanics, basically. I have a whole lot of other ideas about this that I'm not going to go into right now.
The vibrational mechanics?
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. As far as just like, if you can amplify energy like that, why aren't we using that to produce electricity, right?
Yeah.
Because it takes a very small amount of energy to put into something. You just tap on something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At its resonant frequency, at that frequency.
Yeah.
And it amplifies that energy in that because of the material.
Yeah.
And it'll destroy itself unless you can kind of dampen it with the mechanism to actually, like, let's say you have like a circular thing.
Like you're harvesting it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And then it's infinite.
Yes. I mean, there's a small amount of energy that you have to put into it.
Sure.
But I mean, the amplification of that energy, I don't know, it just seems
huge.
Yes.
That's huge, man.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, I digress. I think that happens between people as well. I've been thinking about this lately too, like how we talk about like, oh, I really resonated with what they said, or something. It's just an expression,
mm-hmm.
but I think that it's very true. Like, if you can bring someone to your perspective, then you're on the same frequency almost, right?
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wow, I can completely see it, and I didn't even see it before.
Yeah.
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 And it was right in front of me the whole time.
And then your heart like relaxes.
Yeah.
Because that happens to me all the time. I mean, I'm just a regular person.
Yeah.
So I go through my range of and subliminally, I like, I don't like, I will, I won't, mm-hmm. with other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a huge point that you're making.
And then another thing I was thinking about was, like, let's say that I'm momentarily worried about something that's very big too. Like the other day I was driving down the road and like, I just watched some video about climate change, and all of this, and like generally speaking, I don't think about it a lot, right? Because it's very stressful.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of your energy to think about that kind of thing that's that big.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people just don't think about it on a general basis, I think, because otherwise we would all just be crashing into each other in the road, Yeah. Because like I felt that way on the road a few days ago, where I was just driving and I was like, I am like a little bit shaken right now, just thinking about this thing.
Absolutely.
And I mean, obviously there's a lot that needs to happen in that whole realm. But then again, like, what are we actually in control of? Like, what is, if this is a worry on my heart, right? Why is it there, and is there something I can do?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the main question that we have to ask ourselves about anything that we're actually worried about. If there's tons of people who aren't worried about climate change at all.
Yeah.
Just not even, it's not even happening, or whatever,
Yeah, whatever they tell themselves, and then it's not on their mind, and
there's some of it's denial, some of it's just like,
I don't know enough to have an opinion,
right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's those of us who do know, and maybe we don't know the whole story, right? Like,
we know enough to go insane.
Yeah, exactly.
Enough
I'm
there with you.
Enough to side enough to take caution about things that are happening,
Yeah, and make the small adjustments in our lives that we can, and so that brings me to, I mean, the whole point you just made is why I do absolutely everything that I do. Now, aside from Pilates, because that's a movement-based something that's very special to me is movement, of course. And we've talked about that before with atoms and everything.
Right.
But in terms of climate change.
I know. Like, I remember...
It's almost like you don't even want to call it climate change, because it's like...
It's a loaded word.
It's a loaded word.
Yeah, or phrase.
But I've devoted the past 15 years of my life
Yeah.
to doing what I can, and up until about 3 years ago, I was trying to save the world. I could do it.
Oh, I know. I remember when I met you, I was completely overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I gotta change everything. Yeah.
Well, trying to save the world will make you go crazy. It won't even make you right.
Yeah.
You'll be burning your engines in all these different directions, and you go to sleep at night and you just feel exhausted and frustrated, and you're worse.
Yeah.
You are disappointed in your people. You're disappointed in everything. And walking around with that constant disappointment is so heavy and dry and uncreative. And so I've modified. So I spent the past 15 years in hardcore study. I'm still hardcore studying, but now it's fun.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh God, I am out of this meeting 3 hours early. I got this book.
Nice.
You know,
exactly.
like, because I've released my sense of obligation. I've released my sense of duty.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I can't, and I always kind of thought, I can do it all. I can hold it all, I can do it all, bring it in, I'll absorb it all.
Until you can't. Yeah.
Until you can't, and you're not even functioning right.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of go through some emotional exhaustion, which I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
So I'm at this happy place now where I've got this niche that I know where I can do my part. And so as much as I would love to work in your sector in terms of like the solar panels and everything, I grow native plants.
Yeah.
It turns out that's what I'm good at. And it was really hard for me to narrow it all down. I had to let a lot of things go. Even my study of geology. I'll still dabble because it's fascinating, but I don't feel required to know everything anymore because someone else will, and I'll let them do that. I specialize in...
It's a deep subject.
Yeah, it's a deep subject.
Eons.
But yeah, I kind of figured out, okay, so I can't do all of it. And so I'm just going to specialize in native plants. And I know that there's a lot of people who want native plants and they don't know where to get them. So actually, believe it or not, this is my official announcement. But yeah, I'm going to be opening my own plant nursery after all this time.
So cool.
There's such a need for it. And I'm always encouraging such things, but then no one knows where to go or what to do. There's this huge gap between the awareness that's now being showered upon society, which is oh my gosh,
right.
It's like shooting stars.
It's an invasive
so huge.
species. Oh my God! Like, what am
butterflies
I doing?
and native plants, like these huge buzzwords now that like I don't know because I don't watch, but it's probably on the news. I mean, 5 years ago, I was the only student in my sustainable agriculture classes that even spoke about native plants.
Right. Yeah.
Now I have so much competition. I'm like, I don't want to be like that either. Because I had it all to myself, and now I'm like, no, we are in this together. It's not just me anymore. There's a community here. And so that's another part where I have to open up, because I've worked so hard alone for so long. But man, you don't get very far.
Yeah.
And it takes you a really long time. And then you just come out weird. So that's where we're at. And so that's what I've decided to do. And so that's my specialty. I just happen to know a lot about plants and have a lot of fun with them, but I'm not able to... I had to stop like landscaping for people. I had to stop creating people's gardens. That's what I did for almost 15 years.
Wow.
But now I'm exhausted. I've kind of wear and tear on my body and my spirit, and then I was working like 80 hours a week, and I was sleeping on the properties that I was working on just because I wanted the outcome.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't even the journey was towards this outcome, but now I realize that I have a different way of getting to that same outcome, but being a part of the journey in a way that is better suited for me. And so I've had to let so much go, because being a native plant cultivator, I can't go anywhere without squinting because everything is non-native.
Yeah.
I half of the stuff that we look at is considered invasive, or at least
Right.
non-native aggressive.
Okay.
You lose your mind. I mean,
yeah.
you just always have words. You always know the name of the plant, and then in your mind at the same time, it's invasive, it's native, it's, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you can go crazy because no one is planting native plants because no one knows where to get them.
No one knows what they are.
No one knows what they are or
Yeah.
where to get them, and the nurseries don't know.
Wow.
I've had major problems with nurseries. I'm not going to say they're lying to me.
Right.
They're just salespeople, and they just happen to not know their product very well.
Yeah, exactly. They just work
Oh,
there.
God.
You know?
I mean, they are. I paid just this summer. I paid $200 for a plant called Calicarpa americana, which is the American beauty berry.
Okay.
Oh, it's so delightful, so beautiful. Not native to this ecoregion, but southern Ohio, and to me that's close enough.
Yeah.
I've tried 5 different times from 5 different nurseries, and they all send me the Asiatic varieties every time. This past company, they promised that it was going to be the Calicarpa americana, and I'm so excited. I waited years for this. Like 6 years I've been trying to get this plant. I raised all 5 of them. They had flowers getting ready to open, and one flower went, ah! And I went, you're not the American one. After all that time. And so I called the company, and they're like, yeah, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
Damn.
I'm like, okay, well, now you do.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to, you literally have the Latin name written on your website, and you have to do something. Nurseries are so awesome, but they are also extremely irresponsible. Like, extremely. And it comes down to the person. Now, my grandma's not going to do this research before she goes. She's going to trust these people.
There needs to be some kind of organizational library, you know, like that goes along with that. And I don't see that exists, right?
Now, there are several online databases that are really, really super good. So wildflower.org is probably the most helpful. And then you have Go Botany. And you also have the Native Plant Trust, which is centered in Ohio, and they do amazing things.
Nice.
Indigenous Landscapes does amazing things.
Yeah.
So you have a few companies that have been doing it for so long and with such passion that they are a wealth of information rather than just nurseries trying to sell stock. They say, we just want to give you information.
Nice.
And that's what's so nice about the native plant community is there is the information out there, but you have to seek it. And you know what?
Yeah.
Not everybody, I mean, there's a certain level of responsibility when you're talking about choosing your plants, but you know what? You ought to have fun.
Right. Yeah.
Or you're not going to do it at all.
Yeah. And so you have to have the people, the kind of guides.
Yes. You know? And they're not there. They're not in the world yet.
Yeah.
We're breeding them. Yeah. I'm breeding them. You know, we're breeding them, but there is definitely a large gap. And so that's one of the missions that I have in the world is I want to close those gaps, and I want to make it fun for people, because guess what? Planting a native garden is not very fun because you don't know where you're going to get your plants. The nearest native nursery from here is an hour and a half away.
Wow.
And they just have little plants, and so what do? I would like to replace this this burning bush with a high bush cranberry. Now what? Now that I've made that choice, what do I do now? I literally can't.
Yeah. Wow. Like, you can't even buy seeds or anything, or is that like
you can buy seeds.
Yeah.
And you can wait 6 years for it to flower.
Wow.
And it'll be this tall. I mean, or hopefully you can start going to native nurseries and getting, 3 gallon, it's already 5 years old, and you'll have flowers by fall. That's what people want. And why aren't they planting native plants? Because you could go to any other nursery where all of their plants are already mature, already available.
Right, yeah.
Yes, they're genetically modified and all kinds of stuff.
It feels like the same way that we have like fast food franchises everywhere. Like, it's like, hey, it'd be really great if we had local food and people who just were in the area who took food from the area and made their own dishes. That would be so much better.
Yeah. But it's hard. It's the infrastructure's not there. The people aren't there. It doesn't actually exist. So I guess I'll have to go.
It used to.
Yes, that's right.
And same with this too. Mm-hmm. It used to exist.
That's right.
And people lost focus, I guess, right? Like
Well, in the 1800s, gardening was just so exciting.
Right.
We didn't have we didn't know about the damage to ecosystems.
Right.
We just celebrated the beauty and the growth, and it's not.
Yeah.
So gardening and what we've done to our environment can be seen as a very, very negative thing, but it's truly not.
Yeah.
It never had a negative intention.
Yeah.
It's just I have. When I worked at a nursery in Westlake, I had a couple come in. Hi, we just bought a house. We really want this area to have ground cover. What do you have for ground cover?
Right.
English ivy.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else? Pachysandra. Do you have anything else? No. You know what I mean? And they're and even if I recommended a native ground cover, they wouldn't be able to get their hands on it.
Right.
So people have functions they want to perform. They have beauty that they would like to achieve.
Yeah.
They do not have the resources to make that happen.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's enlightening. I was unaware of a lot of this for sure.
Well, there's certain nurseries that are doing really well. In the past 3 years, they've popped up like all over. They're still very far from where we're at right now.
Yeah.
New York has a lot.
Okay.
But just because they're existing doesn't mean. That nursery is going to have 25 species, 30 species, which means that there's hundreds that they don't have.
Yeah.
So we need this. And I decided, I can do that. I can fill that need. I can't save everybody from everything else.
Right.
But I can do this. And, I had when I met you, I was starting the Environmental Awareness Council.
Okay.
And I just thought that was going to be so stellar. I was so excited. I spent like 20 hours a week on it for these meetings, but people weren't ready.
It's just maybe too broad of a spectrum.
And then people don't want to be responsible.
Yeah.
So the more you learn, the more you feel like you're responsible.
And also, largely they're not. Largely we live in this system and it operates and functions in this way. And that's causing a lot of damage. But to try to operate against the system is so incredibly hard that that's all you will be able to accomplish in your life if that's all you're trying to do.
Right.
And so, but then you also run into, that's such a challenge because you also have to live a life,
Yeah.
And then if you have anything go wrong, an emotional breakdown, something over here where there's a death and now you're grieving, can completely
collapses.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's part of our job as whatever we feel is our job to continually maintain that inspiration.
Yeah.
And that brings me back to enchantment. And I tell people that, because people look at me and they're like, wow, you really do a lot, because I'm out there snowboarding and hula hooping and canoeing and all this stuff, and they think that I'm really holding they say too many balls in the air.
Right, yeah.
But the way I see it is, no, I just stay stoked.
Yeah.
I just stay stoked because
keep rolling down the hill with it,
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's just so much more fun to be stoked and to be excited.
Yeah.
I always say that being stoked is my antidepressant because because you will collapse, and then you have to find that inspiration. But if you know that inspiration comes and goes and you're okay with that, you also have more of an ability to reactivate it when you need. Rather than, I'm a failure, or I'm failing, or it's not turning out that I wanted, not inspired today, that's all right.
Right, yeah.
And even with Pilates, today I walked in there, and I'm going to be honest with you, I walked in there I did not want to.
Yeah, for sure.
But I turned the music on, and it was that guy, Marcus Allen Ward, actually, that I played, and I was and I just and I just started
the guy who gave you the free CD on the side of the bed?
And I was still grumpy, but I was and then I did a spin, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I'm that was ridiculous. And then I'm and then I just I went with it, and I felt so good.
Yeah.
And then I had the best lesson I ever had.
Nice.
That was this morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I wrote the owner of the studio, and I was because we had talked earlier about how we can best help her, and I was we got her.
Yeah.
We can help her.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's because I was able to change my attitude. I did my clapping.
Oh, yeah.
And I was still I still don't want to. Wake up! I'm here and now and tired.
Grumpy cat.
Yeah,
face.
and got myself stoked up, and my energy was high, and my thoughts were clear, and
yeah.
was able to re-inspire myself.
Yeah, making the turn, or yeah.
Yeah, just kind of determining where I want to go and
turning the corner, so to say.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't see what was on the other side there. Now I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
I knew I'd make it. I knew I wasn't going to fall off the other side of that cliff there.
Yep. And working multiple jobs is something, you know, I have to. I work as a garden teacher person. I work as a Pilates instructor, and I work at a ski resort.
Yeah.
So like those three things are not the same.
Right. Yeah.
So
those
when
are modes.
Modes. So when I'm showing up for one, I might still be in my previous mode, and I have to disconnect. I have to snap out of it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not present, I mean, that is my idea of success. I could still fail.
Yeah.
But at least I failed where I'm at, and not just because I left my mind
paying attention,
or something.
Like, just wandering through it or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I completely relate to that. If I'm somewhere playing some music and I'm like, I don't know, like, now this is something I need to actually take care of. But like, sometimes I make T-shirts and things, you know.
Yeah.
And the place isn't exactly ventilated the way that it should be, and then so there's like this like chemicals from the actual and it kind of makes me a little foggy afterwards, and it kind of
Mad Hatters, what you've got going on.
I know. And
so you get foggy.
Yeah, and so I don't ever do more than like 30 shirts at a time, and then I leave the place, kind of thing, you know, just to kind of mitigate in that way. And there is a fan right above where the dryer is, so there's not a lot, like, it's an exhaust fan, it's sucking a lot of the fumes out of there.
Yeah.
And so I try to take precautions, but even so, you know, it's like you're right there. You're like I don't know how anybody would mitigate all of them, you know, because you have a dryer right next to you. If you're doing like a 2-color print, you know, you bring it in here, you're drying it for a minute. I walk away, and then I move the dryer away, and there's like fumes coming up off of the shirt.
Oh, wow.
Like as you're printing the next print on
Yeah.
there, you know, and like I'm
goodness.
holding my breath.
Yeah.
You know?
For hours at a time.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's one of the reasons why I don't like to do screen printing, and I don't do it often at all. You know? I do it for the festival. I do it for friends, but I'm lucky I'm in a spot right now where I can like do a few and then walk away, let the place air out, and then go back again.
Yeah.
But
you're making your festival shirts right now?
Yeah. I'm waiting on some supplies to come in currently.
I've seen a lot of your original artwork coming out.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun to see. Yeah, and the shirts this year and the last few years have all been done by Mark Grabus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he always takes the original artwork was done by me, and it was just like this kind of like, you know, 2-dimensional cartoon, you know, or whatever. And he takes that and like puts it on the guy's shirt, you know, in the thing.
Oh.
As like an homage, you know.
Yeah. I love that.
Really
I
cool.
love that when you do art, you're like, we'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I have no attachment to the outcome, and maybe you might. I mean.
Well, yeah, and that's.
There's always that kind of struggle where you're like, I need to liberate myself, and also am I too.
Yeah.
Focus on my outcome, because you know that'll screw up any art project. Is when, you know, like when I would sew, I would have such an idea of what I wanted before I would even go to the fabric store that it was hell.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hell from the beginning to the end. It was migraine status. Everything was just, nothing was fun.
Yeah.
And I barely enjoyed my product. But when I'm like, oh, I like this fabric, I like this one, and then you just allow yourself, and then, wow, look what I did. You know, that's super cool. And I don't know, your artwork tends to make me feel like you're like, well, look what I did.
Yeah.
Look what happened.
Generally speaking, that's true. Yeah. I visually, I tried to paint for a little while, but it was always like a thing. I did about 5 paintings probably.
Like acrylic or something?
Yeah. Or actually, I was using oil.
You were using oil.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
and a medium and like I don't know. I've never really used acrylic, I guess, but.
Did you enjoy it? Did you?
I mean, it was fun. Yeah. I was always like, I'd have to take pictures like every brush stroke though, because like I would get so attached to what it was. I'm like, okay, this is the oil, but I got to keep going.
Yeah.
It's my original vision.
Yeah.
So I take a picture and then I could continue.
Yeah.
You know? Like it was like I'd end up with like a whole 50 photographs, you know, of like the progression.
And there's like a little sun that pops up and goes away, and then there's a little flower that pops up and then goes away. But that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is.
And especially if you did like a fast, like a week,
I know.
like,
For sure.
That'd be cool.
And that's one thing I didn't realize at the time is that you can paint things and then paint over them. That's something I didn't have a concept of so much.
So you were worried about it being very good the whole time.
Yes, exactly.
Woo!
This is like, this is where it has to be.
Coming in and you're like,
yeah.
yeah. But it's fun. Never did the oil, but I know that the oil stays wet for a while, so there's so much liberty with that, whereas acrylic really is kind of like a sentence, like, you know, you can't go back. I mean, you can paint over, but you don't get to incorporate what you've already done. So it's kind of hell, but it's cool in its own way. But it's not as interpretive. It's like,
I could see myself doing it at some point if I ever had time. It's fun.
Yeah,
you know?
Just do fun shit.
Yeah. I generally write a lot though, and write music. And music I always did to facilitate words in a lot of ways too. But.
Yeah. You've always been fun with the words. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes I'll say something and it'll be so weird, and I'm like, that's something that Bibi would have said. Because I kind of make up my own language. Me and my son, he'll know what I mean, and you know. But I'm like, that was a Bibi one.
And I try to be straightforward more so nowadays too, because I can be too extra. Like I find myself. I find myself. I look back at a bunch of old pictures the other day, and I'm like, man, I'm just way too extra. I need to like.
Oh, come on.
You know? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I was who I was.
You're always going to be perfectly you as you ought to be, and it's always just going to be good stuff. Yeah, we're always right where we should be.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it was really awesome having you here today, Bibi.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you in so long. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah. Oh, and hey.
Yeah. We're still taping.
So next week you've got comic books, is that right?
Oh yeah. Well, actually the week after.
Oh, the week after.
Yeah, because I postponed everything for the festival.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been getting into comics, so I'm excited to check into that episode.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot with the comic scene. I mean, I've met so many cool people.
Yeah.
Everyone's funny.
It's it's such a great medium.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a big one. I'm so glad that we had this beautiful weather.
Yeah.
It feels so good. This is the best part of summer here.
It's a really great spot on campus. I don't hang out on college campuses like I used to.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's cool. I mean, it's humble.
Yeah.
It's a humble place.
For sure.
We do good things. I think that the number one outcome of this college, the number one outcome of my program, and the number one outcome of everything I do in the world is inspiration.
Right.
So again, that comes back down once again to perspective. If you can give somebody a healthy perspective, it just breeds more. Mm-hmm. It just breeds more excitement and more perspective. So maybe they don't remember the 30 index cards that you gave them, but they just know that they thought it was interesting.
Right.
And even if they graduate with a degree and that's all they got, I mean, you don't lose that.
Exactly.
And it comes out when it's ready.
Yeah, true.
So.
Yeah, not everyone's going to memorize every plant name in the world, you know?
Unless they're really nerdy.
It's just not going to happen. Well, yeah.
Some of us will try.
It's caveats.
Great.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, Yeah, good to go.
All right, Phoebe. Thanks again.
Yeah.